presentations. Here we go. Delivering presentations, chapter objectives. So we're going to talk about CA, communication apprehension, and how to control your nervousness. So when you think of top fears and phobias, what do you think of? Many people would say flying, heights, spiders, but did you know that 74% of the US population has a fear of public speaking? So if you're feeling a little anxiety before your speech, you're not alone. These statistics are according to the National Institute of Mental Health. Controlling your nervousness. So first we need to define communication apprehension. An individual's level of fear or anxiety associated with either real or anticipated communication with another person or persons. So this means you could have a speech coming up and you're feeling a little nervous, or maybe you're just sitting in class and you're afraid the teacher might call on you. It can be real or anticipated communication with one person or with multiple people. There are two different types of communication apprehension. The first is state communication apprehension, which is situational. So something in the situation makes you nervous. Maybe it's a job interview and you're really excited for the job. Maybe it's a speech. Maybe your visual aid isn't working properly. Your video starts to freeze. And then there's trait communication apprehension, which is when you're apprehensive in all contexts. What's good about both of these is there are tips to help you overcome your communication apprehension in both situations. So here we go, 10 tips for public speaking. Number 1, relax. So the first thing that you can do is something called systematic desensitization. This is deep muscle relaxation to counter physiological symptoms. So this is when you relax your body by breathing deeply. You can even do this during your speech. If you find yourself getting nervous, you can breathe deeply and count to 3. Number 2, know your material. Pick a topic you're interested in and know more about it than you include in your speech. I had a student once give a speech on scuba diving. He was a master diver himself, and so he knew tons of information on this speech. Remember, it's only a 3 to 4 minute speech, so you'll have to cut out some of your information. Number 4, know your audience. So it's always good to greet some of your audience members as they arrive. If you're in an online class, it can be difficult because you don't really know your audience that well. So it's always easier to speak to a group of friends than strangers, so say hello to the people in class. Ask them what they're speaking about that day. Number 4, know the room. Arrive early, walk around the speaking area, and practice using your visual aids. So as you see, you're not going to have use of a podium in the class, so you'll just be using your note cards and then standing in front of all the desks lined up. Number 5, don't apologize for any nervousness or problem. If you happen to mess up, just sort of laugh it off and think to yourself, the audience probably never noticed it. If you just keep going with your speech, we won't notice the mistake. But if you stop, apologize, or even curse, then we're definitely going to notice if you messed up. Number 6, practice, practice, practice. Rehearse out loud with all equipment you plan on using. Control your filler words. These are words like like, kinda, so, you know, stuff like that. Practice pausing instead and breathing between your main points. And it's always good to practice with a timer. All right, number 6. Did I say practice? Make sure to pair anxiety eliciting situations with a relaxed state. So similar like a soldier going to war, if you're nervous, you want to practice working through that nervousness. So imagine the situation and work through it. This is another form of systematic desensitization. Number 7, gain experience. A speech class can provide you the experience you need in a safe and friendly environment. I want you to make mistakes in class. It's okay if you mess up here. Just keep going with your speech. I don't want you to mess up at, let's say, your brother's wedding while you're giving a toast. So a speech class is the perfect environment because you have a supportive audience and a teacher there. So those were physical things you can do to prepare for your speech. Now let's talk about mentally preparing for your speech. So there's something called cognitive restructuring. This is when we replace negative statements such as, I'm nervous, I can't do this, I'm not doing a good job, with coping statements. So number 8, a task statement. Remember to speak slowly, clearly, loudly for your audience. Number 9, context statements. So these are things that you can say in the moment. I had a student once who was making cookies, and he brought in all of the ingredients, and he actually dropped an egg in class while giving his speech. He just laughed it off and said, no one's going to remember that tomorrow. Remember, your audience is rooting for you. We want you to be engaging and entertaining. And then finally, self-evaluation statements. So you can say things to yourself during your speech, such as, this is easier than last time, and I am doing a good job. I hope these tips have been helpful for you. Remember to review the 10 Tips for Public Speaking worksheet, which can be found in week 10 of the content section of Desire to Learn.